That is not for the faint-hearted. This is different. I'm going to put the camera away. Morning. So today I find myself in Calpe. I think that's how you say it, but I'm going to find out if I'm saying completely wrong. C-A-L-P-E. Calpe or Calpe?
Calpe Old.
I think it's Calpe.
Calpe.
Calpe. There you go.
Here I am. I'm going to explore this small little Spanish town on the Mediterranean coast between Valencia and Alicante, halfway between the two. So far, great impression. Just had breakfast at this Spanish cafe. Nice little breakfast. Under €5. Can't really complain. I'm a big fan of coming into these little Spanish cafes and just having like an omelette or an espresso. Good value, and you're always left satisfied for a good price. Well, I've got to check into a hotel in a moment, but this is where I am. Check out this beautiful, beautiful place. A little bit like the Rock of Gibraltar over here. I guess the Rock of Calpe. Fantastic. Sandy beaches, a little bit crowded, but that's okay. Might meet some interesting people, you never know.
I wanted to meet interesting and stimulating people of an ancient culture. And
100 years ago, none of this obviously looked like this. The place used to look a little bit similar to what we see over there on the rocks. On the rocks there we have the old-fashioned Spanish villas. Over here, you've got the sort of modern-ish hotels. Well, some of us have got to take a holiday sometimes, so taking myself here, beach club with some cheesy music, but why not? Welcome to another one of my videos. I am Alex and I am the Wandering Englishman. If you haven't tuned in to my channel before, my channel consists of over 400 videos to this date, and that number is only going to increase. Videos ranging from travel to politics to sometimes a little bit of music. Hopefully you will click that subscribe button and join me on this adventure where we discover Calpe, and you'll also join me on other adventures where we get to discover other unique little places around the world. I couldn't resist filming these quaint little cars on the walk to the Rock of Calpe, Ithaca, a rock that we see in much more detail as this video progresses. So the Rock of Calpe, I'm going to attempt to climb it over the next day or so. Wow. Holy crap, that was really quite difficult. I was literally holding onto the chain by the edge. I'm going to avoid climbing it today. I seem to have eaten a dodgy Indian, and it's made me a little bit pale. So I'm taking it easy today. But it's okay, it's a beautiful day. The sun is out. It gives me time to sort of just reflect on one's position in life and contemplate the climb of that mountain or rock tomorrow. What's remarkable about just walking along this path, which is on the sort of lower point of the rock, the Ithaca rock, is the sound of all the birds, which you probably aren't hearing because of the sound of the waves. Birds here, we've got gulls. Apparently there's peregrine falcons nesting up here as well. Look at the gull sitting on his lamppost here, just chilling. I quite like the gulls. So a lot of people don't like gulls, but I think they've got amazing personalities. Some are a little bit vicious, but why not? They're like mini little dinosaurs. You can imagine distant relatives of the pterodactyls and pteranodons. Give you some perspective on Calpe. I've been staying in that black building over there. That is a Sol de Ban something hotel. Very nice hotel. To give you perspective, it kind of goes all the way to the left of that hotel, and it kind of stops where you see these houses on the cliffs over here, and then it comes all the way around here. We've got kind of new developments all the way to the rock. And then on the other side of the rock, I think it's still defined as Calpe. And also the Catalans, they don't call it Calpe, they call it Calpe. As this is really Spain, we call it Calpe. Over the years, many climbers have died trying to climb this beast. The biggest problem you have, despite how ancient these rocks are, the rocks do crumble, so climbers' ropes can be screwed in and then saying bang, you're gone. Standing right below the edge of this huge rock face gives you kind of perspective on just how tall it is. It is tall, and you can imagine when the rocks do fall and they crumble, which can happen due to the freezing process. When water expands in the cracks, it freezes, it loosens the rocks, and then when it thaws, the rocks come tumbling down, and you can see the scree, is that what it's called these days? Just the rock falls that have happened in the past. Just to think, the people over the years that may have looked upon these rocks. We had the Ottoman Empire that took their share of this land. We had the Barbary pirates that came over from Algeria that took many, many slaves from this region. A lot of Spaniards were taken as slaves. You can almost imagine the Spaniard from Gladiator. There's a typical scene that generally happened back then, and it happened for hundreds and hundreds of years. Spaniards and Europeans all up the coast of the Mediterranean and up the coast of the Atlantic were taken by the Barbary slavers. And yet, which nation abolished slavery? It was the English. And which nation is blamed most for slavery by the woke? It is the English, and yet it's so wrong that they are. But think about those that have glanced upon these cliffs. It's quite immense, and I think it's amazing to think that when we're long gone, these cliffs will still be here, this rock will still be here, standing proud, looking out towards Ibiza this way. Ibiza is just this way.
Oh, Ibiza! It's pronounced Ibiza. You wouldn't want any of these folks realizing you're a crook, not a social climber.
The rock is, if it had a mind, probably thinking, damn, if only that sort of party was going on here. This rock has been quite special for many, many generations of people that have lived around here, that have visited around here. Quite a fitting sign really as we approach the end of this trail. There's no way I can get around these cliffs unless I want to swim around the coast. And if you swim too close, of course, that would be quite treacherous. The only way to sort of experience these cliffs further is, of course, to go up. And I think that's what I will do. Is this working? It's working. Okay, a little bit of water should you be a bit thirsty after the little walk. If you're feeling a little bit wealthy, you can fly your helicopter onto the helipad just below this huge rock. Why not? There's a lot of very plush yachts ported around here and some very nice hotels. It is the kind of place that the wealthy do flock to. So I've been here for a number of days now, just sort of trying to soak up the atmosphere. Calpe is a place where the Belgiums, the Germans, some Norwegians, a fair number of Brits will come just to relax. Fairly elderly population, but there are a sort of mixed bag between sort of the young to the middle-aged to the elderly. But I would suggest that the majority of people that frequent around here are the sort of families and generally the older folks. One of the interesting things I've noticed about these sort of areas is one of the biggest businesses is a estate agency. literally on every corner there's an estate agency place. This is Calpe Casa, the House of Calpe. So if you want to buy property in Calpe, you can get like a little villa for 360,000. This one has 2 bedrooms or 3 bedrooms. Look at the notice the difference if you want the old style compared to the new style. The new style, 1.6 million, almost 1.7 million. Massive difference. Or just apartments, 179,000, 300,000 here, just 300,000. Like a villa, 3 bedrooms. Apartments, 245, 94,000 if you want to. Looks like it's, well no, it's got, it's two rooms. You've got like a bedroom, living room, dining room for 94,000. Probably a very old building. And then on top of that, look at this, 380,000, 2 bedroom, 2 bathroom. Quite nice. This seems to be one of the biggest trades. There's another one over there, as you see. This is a English Spanish agency. So obviously a lot of the people purchasing property around here are the Brits. And you can't really blame them, you know. It's a lot more sunshine here all year round compared to Old Blighty. Old Blighty right now is, I think, 16 degrees, where today we're about 27, 28 degrees. There's considerable difference in temperature. Very different type of lifestyle. I'm enjoying strolling around Calpe despite not being able to climb the rock at the moment. Now I believe this game is Pelota. Pelota means ball in Spanish. So Pelota, and this game in specific because it's played without bats and only with the hand, is called Chaza. Now forgive me for probably pronouncing that wrong. The objective of the game is for the player with the ball to throw it as far down the court, or in this case narrow street, as possible without the other team returning the ball. Now the other team have 4 players to potentially return the ball, and they only can return it, in this case, by batting it back with their hands. Sometimes the Basque pelota is played with a bat. Well, it looks like a sort of widened baseball mitt. A cross between a baseball bit and a field hockey stick is probably the best way to describe that mitt. But in this case, these Spanish chaps are playing pelota or chaza with just their hands. And it's apparently very popular, and apparently this is where they play it every weekend. One thing that is noticeable about this place, the large majority of people here are in Spanish, which is a refreshing change when you go to certain parts of the Spanish coast. You see where have all the Spaniards gone, but here there's a lot of Spanish. To possibly cater for the older population, they've started to install these conveyor belts, escalators, however you want to call them, that go up the sort of rolling hills of this town. There's quite a lot of hills to climb. So I can imagine with the older population, you see them on their walking sticks. That will help them a lot, and it's clearly a recent install, it hasn't been finished yet. Modernization, the Futurama of Calpe. The streets are obviously quite quiet as we approach midday. It's about 11:30 now, and only mad dogs and Englishmen are generally out in the midday sun. So as everyone is done with their business, they get the car past. As everyone's done with their business, they might choose to have a siesta. It's very easy to choose to have a siesta in Spain. There's at least 1,000 years of history in the town of Calpe, but of course it dates back far longer than that. It's just very difficult to find those archaeological remains of the past, but we will see later ancient Roman archaeological finds that put this town on the map. The modernization of the hills of Calpe. I think we found some of the old city walls here. They're pretty around here. Restaurant Los Dos Canons, basically the restaurant of the two cannons. But what I love most about this place is the imagery. We have like Saracen, the Ottomans, the however you want to divide them, the Islamic invaders coming ashore onto the beach of Calpe. Near the Calpe, the Ithaca rock, locals fought bravely to sort of fend these people off, but they got past them on the beaches. But it wasn't until they got to the sort of up the hills towards the church, to these sort of battlements, the Christians, they fended them off. It's almost like Jesus was on their side when they fended the Moors off. With Jesus on the cross, is deterring them all away. I think this is symbolic of the fact that ye shall not enter, for they have Christ here. And this happened in 1744, so not really a long time ago. 1744, the 18th century, probably still sticks in the sort of memories of, people talk about this, but certainly to the point where in October every year there's a festival, and there has been a festival since 1977, basically celebrates the fact that the Christians fended off the Moors. It's reenacted every October. The Moors' boats will land on the beaches of Calpe. There will be a reenactment battles that take place there. Obviously the Moors charging onto shore, which is symbolised by a parade, and that parade sort of leads down the main street, the main shopping street that goes up and down the hill, to eventually have the Christians and the Moors sort of celebrating, and then it's all finished off with the children, which basically symbolises the future of Calpe. But if you get to be here in October, it's a really interesting festival. But look at this, it's like around every corner there's some sort of quaint Spanish imagery. Beautiful, really beautiful. Obviously this all comes alive at night time. Only, like I say, the mad dogs and Englishmen do they venture out during the midday sun, attempt to have a look around. But I think this is the best time to possibly do filming, because there's less people getting in your way, there's less people gawping when you're talking to camera. But there's some really nice restaurants here. Let's have a look at the prices. Not cheap though. Gnocchi, 15 euros. Tagliatelle and salmon, 14 euros. Beef lasagna, 13 euros. You want sea bream, 20 euros. Grilled squid, 20 euros. Chateaubriand, 35 euros per person. It's about 70 euros if you can do two of you on that one. Pizzas, 11, 12, 13. Hola. Hola. What I love about this is we've got the palm trees, we've got these beautiful lampposts, very regal. Just one of the many beautiful squares around here. Very, very pretty. So this would be the entrance to the church that we saw on this side. It looks closed. You can see the cross up there. We've got the Last Supper over here. We've got Mary and Jesus. Wow. And then we've got some sort of more obscure imagery. We've got the lion with the wing. Question is, which way do we go? Do we go this way? Do we go this way? I'm going to opt for this direction. Okay, here we have some pretty good value. We've got the sardines for 6 euros 90, paella 15 euros 90 per person. Usually for two people you're going to be spending just under 32 euros on that one. One thing I've noticed a lot of in Calpe are the swifts and the swallows, predominantly swallows, all making their call. Beautiful birds. The thing about Spain is they've only recently dropped the mask mandate. For almost 2 years, the Spaniards had to walk around in masks. It still shows, because a lot of the older folks, they still continue to wear the face diaper. They still continue to think that it helps them in any way, but as long as it gives them that security, fair enough to them. But at least the rest of us aren't forced to anymore. There is a huge difference between the city area of Calpe to the coastal area of Calpe. In the coastal area, it's basically predominantly filled with the tourists. They're staying in their hotels, whereas in the city area we predominantly have all the Spanish living around here. And life is pretty normal. You'll get yourself a cheaper cup of coffee in the city. You'll get yourself a cheaper croissant around here. You'll get yourself a cheaper tapas on the sort of more side streets. Eat where the locals eat, and you can't really go wrong, and you'll save yourself a small fortune. Probably less of a pretty view. This is why we come to these places. This is what's strange. I don't tend to film the more expensive restaurants, but I'm always obsessed about filming the cheaper places. Here you can get some toast with tomato for €1.50, or toast with tuna for €2.40, or cheese €2.40, serrano ham €2.50, a cup of coffee €1.20. This is exactly what I'm going to have right now. Have it with milk, €1.40. It's try getting that by the coast. Not the biggest coffee in the world, but I also get a free orange juice with it. It's not so bad. Olive oil for when my toast arrives. Here we go. I went for the vegetarian option, the tomato on toast, but because we're in Spain, I get some complimentary serrano ham. Definitely not a place for vegetarians. I love all these little cafes on the side of corners. I mean, there's nothing glamorous about this place, certainly in the centre. There's a few glamorous hotels, but the majority of it feels very kind of real in terms of Spanish. And look what we have here, tourist information. Let's see if I'm missing anything. I have to be honest, I rarely pop into tourist information centres. 99 times out of 100, you'll never see me in one. But this time I did, because I was a little bit flummoxed in trying to understand everything that I could see in Calpe. The people inside were super helpful, and they set me on the right course to understand the ancient Roman history, understand the Ottoman history of this place, and also to incentivize me to explore this city further. This is the classic example of what can be done when the locals think, let's just put a little bit of effort into the decoration. Something as simple as the Spanish flag can suddenly turn a fairly standard alleyway into now a tourist attraction, similar to what you would see in steps in Rio, in Brazil. We now have what we call the Spanish steps in Calpe. The Spanish steps made very beautiful, and it goes all the way down here. And effectively, back before they put the effort into this beautiful stonework and the Spanish flags along the steps, it was a fairly standard alleyway. Not probably people paid very little attention to it, but because they've actually gone to the effort of beautiful stonework and the Spanish flag adorning every single step, it suddenly turns it into something quite exceptional. And you can't really go too wrong with that. I'm sure the locals probably a joyful thing, but also an annoying thing, because we now have vloggers like myself and tourists like myself just sort of taking it all in. I was trying to understand this game when the locals are playing it. At the time they were playing, when I quizzed them about it, they said mañana, mañana. Basically, they might tell me later, they might tell me tomorrow. That didn't happen. But effectively what I understood was they would throw the ball as far as possible down here. The opposition 3 players would then sort of hit it backwards. The other team would try and hit it with their hand. They would use their hand as a tennis racket and gain points. And there was this thing here on the side, on the window, which is no longer here anymore, so it must be a temporary thing. They put the scoreboards on the window, and that way they would be able to tell who won the game. If you want to see that game played, you've got to be here at the weekends. Generally, on a weekday, people aren't playing that game, but maybe in the evenings there's a ton to come. If you've played this game before, let me know. But it is a rather strange game. I can imagine if you're a local, you're trying to do some work, and you've got all these lads throwing balls down the street. It could be kind of annoying, but it's become a bit of an attraction around here. They really are remarkable little streets. I have to say. But then again, all over Spain is like this. You get these little streets, slightly older generation living in this one. And here we have again the story being reenacted. We got the Moors coming up over the beaches, the battle taking place on the beach, and just being deterred by the cross of Jesus, the Christian cross. Not today where the Christians overcame them. Give you kind of perspective of where Calpe is in the province of Alicante. Calpe is up there in the top right, and as you head slightly down from it, you get to the very popular, a certain type of individual, the resort of Benidorm. And as you continue further down from Benidorm, you get to Alicante, kind of there, 2/3 down, almost in the middle, by the coast. And it goes all the way down to here. Spain is split up into a series of regions. This is certainly one of the most popular regions when it comes to tourism. Give you some kind of perspective on the value of eating during the day. Here you can have a menu for €9. It's slightly away from the tourist trail, slightly up the hill, away from where you find the majority of tourists, but predominantly a lot of Spaniards here. You can have a mixed salad, a Spanish stew, pumpkin cream, some macaroni bolognese for a starter, and then you can have a paella or meatballs and sauce, or a grilled fish, burger, egg with chips, all for €9. You choose one starter and one main, but that's pretty good value. Just some more perspective on where we are. Obviously the Ithaca, like my Calpe bag, you see, there it is in the distance, with the Ithaca rock and the coast. What we're going to do is we're going to head down this direction, and I'm going to try and check out some interesting residential buildings. What's interesting on the Google Maps, this is classed as an historical monument, but in fact it's just a residential complex. I'll be honest, some very interesting design buildings, from the red to the green over here to the blue and the, I guess, the sort of the orange over there, or terracotta I think is probably the best way to describe those. As you head this way until you probably get to the next sort of real town, it's just all residential. Nice place to live. You certainly need a car. Away from obviously the centre, you get the private estates, not private estates, the private buildings. Everything's kind of private here, no entry. Reasonably quiet, apart from the odd car. Very quiet place. I hope you don't mind the fact that I'm wearing shades and a cap. Very difficult to see my face or who I am. But the reason I'm wearing the cap is because my head's going to burn otherwise, and sunglasses, why not? I tell you, that place with the €9 menu isn't such a bad deal. You get the balcony over here to eat off, €9 for 2 decent courses, worthy of your time. Just stumbled across this modern day outdoor theatre. Probably built a fair time ago. I can't cross the barrier. The chain stops me in theory. Could imagine this would be quite a fun place to see this Spanish version of Shakespeare, or probably the reenactment of the Moors versus the Christians. I'm sure this happens here, because that apparently is put on as a play in October as well, and I'm sure this is probably a prime location for that. Check this out, it's almost like ancient Rome, ancient Greece, but you can tell it's fairly modern with the not so nice brickwork on the bottom, but a place maybe locals meet in the evenings? No, I'm not sure. Certainly nobody here right now. Nobody here at all. Looks like, is this a fountain over here? Not functioning. I think this place has seen better days. It certainly wasn't expecting me to be wandering around with a camera but this is in need of a bit of a spruce up, it seems. I can imagine though, right next to the theatre, this could be quite a nice place in the evening. This is the typical beach of Calpe. We can see white sandy beaches all the way to the rock over there. It's quite nice. It is quite nice, really. Generally people tend to rent out apartments or hotels and then they stay here, have a few drinks, have something to eat and just relax. So having spent a few days here, I probably got a pretty good feel about what this Calpe is all about. It's basically a very chilled out, relaxed, everyone's sort of leisurely about the way they go about life here. Nothing untoward, there's no debauchery, doesn't seem like there's too many deviants, doesn't seem like there's too many drunks. It generally just seems like a fairly wholesome place to sort of unwind, spend the summer months, which I think a lot of people do. Some people obviously come here and they spend months renting out the apartment, and some people have even retired here. It's not like Ibiza, which is over there, something I've become very accustomed to over the many decades I've been visiting Ibiza. It's nothing like it. I don't even think there's a nightclub here. Well, actually, it's not true. There's a blues club. There's a couple of nightclubs, but does anyone really go to them? Probably not. The biggest action I've had since being here, in terms of excess, was attending the Black Pearl bar, which was a pirates bar.
To the Black Pearl.
There, I got rather drunk and probably regretted it the next day. But here, it just seems very wholesome. See, what's really fascinating about humans, the population that exists right now, this minute, this exact minute that you're watching this YouTube or this Odyssey video, believes that we are at the pinnacle of human existence and that we know more about anything than ever than any humans that came before us. But we've always thought that. It doesn't matter if we were the humans existing in the 19th century, the 17th century, the 9th century. And this is a prime example. For example, over here, this is a place that the Romans created when they were here. They came over from Italy, they landed on the beach in Calpe, they took this for their own, and they dug out from these rocks a place to rear fish. A place that they would have a plentiful supply of fish, so they didn't need to go out into the boats. It was what we have today with salmon farms and trout farms. They created this 2,000 years ago. 2,000 years ago, as far back as the birth of Jesus, the Romans created fishing farms out of rocks so they could have a plentiful supply of fish. Now what's crazy is once the Romans left and people forgot what that was all about, a century passed. The locals that were here way past the Romans in the 8th, the 9th, the 10th, the 11th centuries, the 13th centuries, all the way probably up until probably the 17th, 18th centuries, the locals just assumed that this was a place to bathe, this was a place to chill out. And I've seen people bathing here. It's a nice place to bathe and frolic and play games. But the reality is they didn't keep up the tradition. They didn't keep up the fact that this would have been a perfect place to rear fish. This would have been a perfect place to get some farm fish should they need it. Instead, it was forgotten. And this is the same that we see all over the world. This is the same that we see all over the world. We see these stones that have been laid down by people from the past. Egypt's a prime example. The Incas are a prime example. The Mayans are a prime example. Those that came before them had craftsmanship that they didn't have after them. And it's probably the same. What our ancestors knew about the stars, what our ancestors knew about the Enlightenment, what our ancestors knew about the third eye, is really telling, because we don't know everything right now. We're trying, we've got a population of 8 billion trying their hardest to understand what life is all about. But you've got to really understand that the people that came before us had a pretty good idea about what life was about and what you could do with what nature presents them. And the Romans, remarkable people. And all we have to offer is destruction of this planet through this stupid face nappy that now litters everywhere you go. And there's a reason, there's a gap between the sort of built up area of Calpe over here to the other part of Calpe, is because this part here is an ancient Roman, well, the only way to describe it is ancient Roman findings, excavation, ancient Roman excavation. Here they found many houses, they found, look at this, the construction of the wheel. We can't actually enter this place, but it's quite remarkable. The Romans knew far more than those that came after them for centuries. Remarkable people. Brutal, but remarkable. One thing I've messed up in doing, I didn't come down here with a camera, and if you come down to this part of Calpe, which is kind of just below the rock, a little bit further in the corner, you'll get to the fish market, and this is where all the fresh fish come in. You can see all the fishing nets just here. It all comes in at about 4:30, but I made the mistake when I saw it. I didn't bring my camera down. You just have to imagine the fresh fish coming in. There's a lot of fish restaurants down here, and I'll be honest, it's like 7:45 and most of them are dead. Now it's not because they're bad restaurants, it's just simply I don't think there's that many tourists there. I really don't think there's that many tourists here, and if they are here, they're not spending the money that the restaurateurs would like. Now sadly, these fish restaurants that you're about to see all have an average review rating somewhere between 3 and 3.7 on Google Maps, which isn't great, but I think it could be for reasons that you may have seen when I was in Sunny Beach in Bulgaria. The tourists that frequented that holiday resort had the worst taste in food, didn't appreciate the good stuff. So my thinking is, fresh fish doesn't go down too well with certain segments of the population. As you can see, not as busy as you'd expect it to be. There's certainly a lot of fresh fish about. There's fresh fish galore. It's just coming off the boats. And yeah, the restaurants really aren't that busy at this part of town. The other part of town is busier, but I think it's just a case of things are only just getting back into gear after COVID. They only just opened up recently. Or it could be terrible for service. If the restaurants would like to invite me to find out, I'd happily come along and have a nice fish supper with them. Obviously they can contact me directly, but I'd certainly do that for the good of YouTube and for the good of you guys. Wow. It really is a case of this area is probably in bad need of tourism, but who knows? It's possibly because it's a Thursday, maybe Friday, Saturday, things get busy, but it's one of these things. Also, I must add that the Spaniards eat later than the Brits, so an 8 o'clock start is pretty early for the Spanish. They tend to eat probably around about 9:30, 10 o'clock earliest. And this is on the other side of the rock. This is on the northern side of the rock. Pretty much the same. Another promenade where people like to stroll in the evenings. The seagulls like to gather on the beaches. Like almost every EU country on the Mediterranean, you will find the looky men, those selling counterfeit goods on the side of beaches, outside restaurants, to anyone that will take a fake Gucci bag or a fake pair of Ray-Bans. Personally, as nice as these individuals are, I do not encourage it, because you're effectively encouraging the illegal transport of human beings into Europe, and in doing so, rents are pushed up and overcrowding continues to take place in Europe. But that conversation is for another day. Let's just enjoy some flamingos, which can be found just behind this promenade. Sun's just rising. I've got my water. I've got my ticket to go up to the top of Ithaca. I've probably got the wrong shoes on. I only generally travel with one pair of shoes. Well, let's see how we do. Well, I've just come from sea level, so 332 meters in height. The limestone rock, more than 1 kilometer in length. Just me and them now as we approach this 332 meters. Let's go. This sort of give you some perspective. The first hotel I stayed in was that black one over there. I then sort of moved around, stayed over here. This is the other beach that faces this way, and here we are right in the middle of the Ithaca rock, the Rock of Calpe. Let's continue. So you can have a maximum of 300 people up here a day. That's why it took me so long to get a ticket. You have to go online. It's not an easy process to get a ticket. And I just noticed there's a sign that says the passing of minors through the tunnel. There's a tunnel up here, I think. Is also prohibited. So it really is kind of an adults only limestone rock. But it also means it's very peaceful. If you like the sound of gulls and insects and birds of all kinds, it's quite an enchanting place, really. There are literally thousands and thousands of gulls on this rock. So if you have any problems with gulls, this is not the walk for you. I went in the morning to avoid the heat of the midday sun, but strangely some people go up for sunset, and you can imagine how hot that would be. When I was observing the rock in the evenings, I saw many people at the top of the rock. Keep going up. This must be that tunnel. Now apparently, I've been reading that this is quite difficult with the wrong pair of shoes. And look at my shoes. I got no flip-flops, no under 18s, no drones, and there's a danger of falling from the tunnel. Brilliant. So I hear this can be quite slippy. The during certain times, especially as more people walk up it, which is one of the reasons they restrict it. You can imagine a certain number of footsteps. There's been a little bit of dampness. There is a handrail. With one hand I've got my water, one hand I've got you guys. You probably can't even see me. Bit of a light here. That wasn't so bad. You can actually see what we're... Okay. Wow. It sounds different already. It's quieter this side. I can't hear the sound of the city. No humans on this side, unless there's someone out here. It is amazing. Just changed the battery, and all around me are basically gulls and gammets. You name it, there's all types of birds on this limestone rock formed for millions of years. This is where the stupid YouTuber takes a tumble. Let's not chance this. Always impressed with Harold Balder. He does these insane little climbs with his little action cam, holding it in the rocks. You can see it's quite slippy here. Wrong kind of shoes. Oh. That chap's gone to some interesting places. Have to commend him on his views on COVID, have to commend him on his views on lockdowns, have to commend him on how he's spoken out for Ukraine. That gets him an immediate dislike from those that have bought into the propaganda. Sometimes being on the opposite side of the media isn't always the right side. I know that most of the time we're contrarians, but when it comes to Ukraine, the right side of history is supporting those that have had their land invaded and those that are being massacred. So you wouldn't want to do this if it was slightly wet. You often get rock falls. If that happens, well, it's game over, I think. Not much you can do. Now, usually when I'm on walks, I've got my headphones in, but I find when you're surrounded by nature like this, and also when you want to have a conversation to camera, have the headphones out, especially here. I get to hear the sound of these amazing animals. I'm so high up I can't hear the ocean, but the ocean's down there. The hard part of getting down off any mountain is going down. The hardest part is going down. A lot of people, including my friend Nick, have made it to the top of Mount Everest, but it's the hard part is always getting down. They make it and then, whoa. Now this is difficult. I'm going to put the camera away. As you can see, I need to concentrate. Wow. Holy crap, that was really quite difficult. I was literally holding onto the chain by the edge. That is not for the faint-hearted. If all the path was like this, it would be a walk in the park, but it really isn't. Some of the paths, oh my word. But this bit's nice. This is literally we're getting close to the furthest most tip out there. Ibiza, probably just at that angle, just under to the right of the sun reflection is Ibiza.
I used to drink, I used to smoke, we'll never dance.
I think I'm going to head up to the 550 meter point rather than the 315, which I think is over there. I'm going to head up to the top, follow these guys. As you can see, I'm going to have to hold on to that chain to get all the way up there, so the camera goes away again. I think these are very young baby girls, and that's probably the mother. sadly I've got to go gently past these guys to get to the top. Getting closer. I see a couple of people at the top just on their way back. This is a lot harder than I thought it would be. We're getting closer. Just up there. A little bit out of breath, but we made it. We made it all the way up from down there to up here. You can see the salt plains all the way over there. And now we have conquered Ithaca. I'll be honest, I'm not looking forward to going back. These shoes are the wrong shoes. But what a view. I'm going to sit here for the next sort of 5 minutes or so and then contemplate getting back so that I may check out of my hotel. It took me hour 10 minutes to get up here. Hopefully I can get down in about the same. It wasn't the worst welcome when I got to the top. 4 Swedish girls were on the top of the rock waiting. They had obviously got up earlier than I did. I really wish I could get down like a seagull. It'd be far easier. A little bit of an update. Not only do you have to sort of, be careful of your feet as you're going down, you're going to get bird shit all over you. Look at my hands. Bottle. Just because you're basically holding onto the rocks, and all over the rocks is basically bird shit. Guavo, as they say. Mucho guavo. I'm getting close to halfway down now, but just to give you perspective, all of these rocks here, little perches for all the birds to be nesting on. They love it here, they really do, because effectively there are no foxes here, there's no rats up at this height, there's no predators. The only predator is like a idiotic human that might try and steal some eggs or something. But I don't really think that happens, especially given the fact they limit the numbers here. So effectively, at any point during my climb to the top, I could be stopped. If I don't have the right permits on me, I could get fined 600 euros. So in a way, it stops, people abusing this rock, this mountain. It's not a mountain, but this beautiful scenic point loved by all these birds. And there we have it. I've now made it back to the tunnel. Hello there. Anyway, it's a good opportunity to ask you to subscribe, click that like button. Well, let's keep making these videos and hopefully you enjoy them along the way. I'm covered in bird shit, bird guavo, but it shouldn't really matter. Just for your guide, if you fancy at least a decent view and you don't want to risk falling off the edge, because it is a risky walk, you can come up to as far as the tunnel, just here, and then from the tunnel onwards, I think that's where it basically starts to get a little bit risky, a little bit dangerous. But from to here, perfectly safe. You're not going to get covered in bird crap. I'm going to need a shower as soon as I get back. But it was worth it. Really was worth it. Look at that. Look at that little beach down there. Gives you a vantage point of these little beaches, these coves. From the very busy beaches down here to the little quiet beaches along here.
Just another play for today. Oh, but I'm